everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials. So no live trial that I'm recapping today. I finished up the trial of Richard Merritt yesterday with a verdict. So check out those videos. Yeah. Apparently the jury was not buying what he was selling, which was that ridiculous story about what he said really happened to his mother. They deliberated maybe an hour and a half. Yeah, that was it. Came back guilty on all counts, and he was immediately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 5 years for wielding a knife during the commission of a felony. And I have cat hair in my mouth. Oh my God. Okay. The joy of having animals. So a few other things went on yesterday that I thought I would bring you up to speed about. Now, some of them are these are the gifts that keep on giving. Murda, Gabby Petito, what's the other one? Lori Vallow. They just keep on giving. Anyway, I'm not complaining. So it gives me something to talk about. Let's give us something to talk about. I'm working on my gnome, one of my gnomes. There he is. Yep. I'm on the decrease rows. It's a corner to corner pattern. I'm on the decrease rows. This is going to be part of a larger blanket of all kinds of gnomes. So this is gnome number January, February, March, April, May. 6. This is gnome number 7 because I did a couple of gnomes last month, a couple of gnomes this month. Is that right? January, February, March, April, May, June, 6, 7. 7. This is 7 square. So, because I have a king size bed and I want it to be really big, and then it's going to be full of cat and dog hair. Yeah, I know. That's my dilemma. What do I do with it once I'm done to keep the animals off of it? Because I'm loving this. I really am. Okay, let's get into the heart of the show today. We're going to start off with Alex Murdaugh, and I will put down in the description some timestamps of when I talk about what. So if you're not interested in a particular subject, you can move on to the next subject. How clever! I know. Thank God YouTube thought of that. So Alex Murdaugh, he's serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. 2 life sentences, consecutive 2 life sentences for the murder of his wife Maggie and his son Paul, the murders. Yes. However, we knew he was already facing many financial charges in the state of South Carolina that they have not tried him for yet. The trial has not been set for that. However, what was I thinking? Oh, I just had a brain fart. However, he had not been charged in federal court. And you remember I told you guys, it's coming. It's coming. Yes, it came. 22 charges. 22 charges, including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit bank fraud, and money laundering, for all stemming from his financial crimes during his employment at the Parker PMPED law firm. It's now called the Parker Law Firm. He conspired with Corey Fleming, who is an attorney who worked at a different law firm. And what they would do is he would set, this particularly stemmed out of the Gloria Satterfield matter, where he encouraged the Satterfield family to sue him personally for her injuries on his property. Gloria Satterfield was his housekeeper. We suspect that she was on her way to work that morning. He says, oh, no, because he didn't want it to be workers' comp. No, she was just there to pick up a check. Okay. You know how you tell Alex Murdaugh is lying? When he opens his mouth. Yeah. He initially said, he said that she told him the dogs had tripped her up. Well, then he just recently came out with, nah, she never said that. I don't know. So that's it. It was all paid out. The insurance money from the homeowner's insurance paid out this claim. But what he did, and I've really digressed here, is he encouraged the family to go to his friend Corey Fleming, and he would represent them. The family was very confused. The two boys that are left, very confused by all this. They thought Alex Murdaugh was their lawyer, and he's like, no, I'm the defendant. You're suing me. Your lawyer is Corey Fleming. So, long story short, Corey Fleming is the other person that he conspired with on, obviously more than just the Gloria Satterfield case, other cases as well, where they would set up Corey as the attorney representing these people, and then they would split the money, apparently. So Corey Fleming is set to plead guilty. He's like, I'm not going to trial. I'm going to plead guilty. So he's going to be pleading guilty to co-conspiracy of wire fraud, which carries with it a sentence of up to 5 years and a $250,000 fine. But I suspect they're going to use him as a witness against Alex Murdaugh. Alex Murdaugh, if he's convicted just on these 22 additional charges, in addition to the other 100 that he faces in the state court of charges, he would be facing 480 years in prison, in addition to his 2 consecutive life sentences. Now, it sounds like an extreme waste of government money to try this guy, keep trying this guy. But suppose he gets off on those 2 murders on appeal. Then you got the backup, the financial crimes that he's going to have to serve time for. And then where does he serve his time? I think, is he going to serve in a federal prison, a state prison? I don't know. I have no idea. Just don't know. Anyway, so that's the latest on Alex Murdaugh. I don't know what the total charges are that he has pending now. It's got to be in the 120 range, 120, 125 charges range that he remains to be tried for. In addition to the civil lawsuit that he is involved in over the boat crash, that hasn't settled. He's still a defendant in that case. Now, that's a civil case. That just means you're going to have to pay money. He doesn't got any money. Several weeks ago, I told you that his lawyers had asked the receivership, the bank, all of Alex Murdaugh's money is tied up in a receivership. I just dropped my crochet. Oh, no, here it is. It's tied up in a receivership. And his lawyers went to that receivership asking for part of his 401k money that he cashed out, asking for that money to pay their fees to represent him during the appeal. The court denied the motion because that money is supposed to be going to Alex Murdaugh's victims. And the court said, no, we've already given you $600,000. That's enough. Yeah. If that's not enough to handle the appeal, then he's just have to get what he gets. He'll probably, if he hasn't already, declare indigency and have to have someone represent him on the appeal that he's probably not going to be too thrilled with. But in any case, let's talk about what happened yesterday. And thank you to one of my subscribers, Robin. She notified me that this was going on, and I switched right over to it to listen. The civil case of Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt, they are suing Christopher Robbins, Winnie the Pooh. No, they are suing Christopher and Roberta Laundrie. So this all stems out of the case of Brian Laundrie for the murder of Gabby Petito. It's a civil lawsuit that Gabby Petito's parents, mom and dad, filed against Christopher and Roberta Laundrie for intentional infliction of emotional distress. So when we're talking about civil, we're talking about torts versus crimes. So what they're alleging is not a crime that's been committed by Christopher and Roberta, but a tort. That's an action where they've done something to hurt you. You've suffered some sort of injury, and it's cost you money, and you want to be compensated. So what they're claiming is that through their attorney, their New York attorney, Steve Bertolino, and a spokesperson, he was acting, that's going to be a question for the jury to decide whether he was acting as an attorney or whether he was acting as the family's spokesperson. But he comes out, and here's what he says to the public. This is understandably an extremely difficult time for both the Petito family and the Laundrie family. The statement said, in part, it is our understanding that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. On behalf of the Laundrie family, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with her family. Now, that's the statement that the Petito parents are saying intended to inflict emotional distress onto them. So the complaint, this is the second amended complaint. Now, they've already had the initial complaint was against Christopher and Roberta Laundrie. The second amended complaint is now naming this Bertolino attorney, saying that his statement, not only as a representation of what Christopher and Roberta Laundrie wanted to say, was a statement he was saying on his own behalf as well. Like he's personally liable for intentional infliction of emotional distress for coming out and saying that. And the reason they're saying this is because in that statement that I just read, he used the term our. Instead of saying it's my client's understanding, it's Roberta and Christopher Laundrie's understanding that a search has been organized, he said it is our understanding that a search has been organized. Then he goes on, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with the family. Now, here's the reason they say that it inflicted emotional distress onto the parents of Gabby Petito, because they were looking for their daughter, and they believe and are alleging that the Laundrie parents knew at the time that that statement was made that she was deceased, that her son had informed them that she was deceased. And at the time that statement was made, they could have come forward, they could have told her, the parents of Gabby Petito, where she was, where the body was. But instead they come out with this statement, which they say was extreme and outrageous. So I proceeded to sit through about 3 hours of these lawyers arguing, not, what you would consider an argument, but the court kind of argument. First there was the attorney for Bertolino, then there was the attorney for the Laundries. So each one of those argued for 45 minutes. And then the attorney for the Petito family, he argued, So by the time we got done with this, I was like, yeah. I did listen because I always find this very fascinating. So we don't have a ruling from the judge. It was a motion to dismiss on behalf of the Laundries and on behalf of Bertolino, saying that this statement, they were already in emotional distress. They were looking for their daughter. This statement did not inflict, what they're saying is this, had they not made that statement, their emotional distress would have gone away. This is the part I didn't understand. If you're already in emotional distress, are you saying someone caused you additional emotional distress, or they could have ended your emotional distress by saying, here's where she is? Maybe that's what their argument is. I don't know. But I thought each side had some good points. And I think if you look at, and there's 2 ways you can get rid of a lawsuit, either through a motion to dismiss or through a motion for summary judgment. Now, a motion to dismiss is where the court, as a matter of law, says there's no cause of action. This does not meet the standard for a cause of action for intentional infliction of emotional distress. First of all, the Laundrie family, or the Petito family is going to have to prove that this was intentional conduct, that they intended the result, which would be additional emotional distress. I don't know how they're going to prove that, how you could prove that with that statement. That statement intended Gabby Petito's parents to be more emotionally distressed than they already were. I don't know. So the judge hears all that. The versus, I talked about the two different types. Summary judgment is a question of fact, where later on the judge can assume all these facts and then say yes or no, there's no cause of action here. The Petito family has a huge hill to climb. They're not there yet. And it very well may be that Bertolino gets excused or gets dismissed out of this lawsuit, and then it's just Brian Laundrie's parents remain in the lawsuit, or they could keep both defendants in the lawsuit through the judge's ruling, and then later on they have to move for summary judgment, and then again will be in court. I think the Petito family is a very, very long way and has a very, very heavy burden to prove all these allegations that they have in their complaint. And that trial is going to be years away. I mean, they're going to have to prove. I don't know how they know what the Laundries knew and when. Like, how can you say you knew, your son knew told you where her body was and that she was dead? How do they know that? Did they bug the house? Like, how do they know that they knew this? They're going to have, that's what they're going to have to prove during a trial, that the Laundries had actual knowledge of that. And that statement, by giving that statement through their spokesperson, they intended to cause the Petito family more distress. That makes no sense. So I don't know where this is going to go. Yeah. So that's the Laundrie update. That's the Murdaugh update. Now, the sentencing of Allan Brown. Now, a few months ago, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I covered the case of Allan Brown, the state of Wisconsin versus Allan Brown. Allan Brown is a guy that in Illinois, he shot and killed a man that was sitting behind a bar in a car. Then he goes to a bus stop and shoots somebody there and kills them. Then he gets in a vehicle, he carjacks a vehicle, takes that vehicle, and he stops at a convenience store in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, the police are all looking for this guy because of the murders he committed in Illinois. They're all looking for him. There's a cop that is passing by this convenience store in Kenosha, and he pulls into the parking lot and he sees this car that everyone's looking for. So he gets on the horn and his fellow officers respond. The guy is sitting in his vehicle for almost an hour because the OnStar that was in this stolen vehicle turned the vehicle off. He was trying to start the vehicle and it wouldn't start because OnStar disabled the vehicle. OnStar is actually the one that notified the Kenosha police of where he was, where the car was. So this one cop that saw him sat in the parking lot and watched him for a good amount of time before his fellow officers arrived on the scene. And he was just in the vehicle trying to start the vehicle and try to figure out, why is this vehicle not working? It was working when I went in the convenience store. When I come out of the convenience store, it's not working. So clever OnStar is. So anyway, they form this, like, all the vehicles come, the canine comes, they form like a V, and then they pull up behind him in a V formation in this convenience store parking lot, and they order him out of his vehicle. So he gets out of his vehicle and he starts running. So he runs up the entranceway to this convenience store towards the highway, and he has a weapon. It was clear he had a weapon because he starts shooting. And the cops, so there was 3 cops that fired at him. He fired at 2 of the officers and he fired at the canine, and he hit the canine in the head. Some of you, this may trigger your memory on this case. So he shoots the canine. They have to rush this canine to an animal hospital. where he survived. The bullet had just grazed him, and this canine survived his injuries. So anyway, Allan Brown was convicted of attempted murder for these police officers. So today was supposed to be his sentencing on those murders. The judge had ordered a pre-sentence investigation report, and they had X amount of time to get that done. And then today he would have the pre-sentence investigation report in front of him, and then he would sentence Allan Brown to however, whatever sentence he had planned based on that pre-sentence investigation report. So I'm watching this morning, I'm watching, and I can't, there's nothing going on in this courtroom, nothing. And finally, the moderator for the chat comes in and says the defendant is refusing to come to court, so that they're going to do this whole thing by Zoom instead. So they set up a Zoom, and we could see the defendant in a cell looking through the window of a cell block. I guess they set the computer right in front of the window of the cell block door. I don't know. And you can see he's mouthing something to the camera. You can't hear him. There's no volume on it. But an hour after the proceedings were supposed to begin, they finally start this Zoom. And the judge says, today's the sentencing for Allan Brown. He says, first I'm going to have the sheriff go on the record to tell everybody, put on the record what happened this morning. So the sheriff comes forward and he says that they attempted to retrieve him, to bring him to the jail. They go out to the jail, this sheriff's office. They attempted to retrieve him and bring him to court. He refused to leave his cell. Nope, not going. Not going to happen. And they could not convince him. So then his defense lawyer, I don't know if you remember his defense lawyer, this was a really scruffy guy that looked like he was sleeping the whole time, presented little, if any, defense to these charges. I mean, it was just like, he's guilty. So he was there. So they send the defense attorney over to the jail to talk to his client. He talks to the client. Client's refusing. He won't come to jail. So now the defense attorney's in the courtroom, the prosecutor's in the courtroom, the sheriff has just put on the record what happened. So now the defense attorney says, I tried twice this past week to go to the jail with the PSI report and review that with my client. He refused to see me. He said the first time I went there, they were on lockdown. They wouldn't let me see my client. Second time I went there, he refused to see me. He said, when I talked to him this morning, I can tell you, he does not understand the proceedings. My understanding is he is off his mental health medication, and he is saying some bizarre things about terrorist activity. And he says, I don't believe that it's prudent, without me having reviewed the PSI with him and without what I believe is him being competent, that we can proceed with the sentencing. And the judge was like, we're done. You raised competency issue. I have to end this right now. He says, I can't proceed with a sentencing where you've raised a issue of competency. And so that's how, what he did. The judge was, he ordered a psychological or a psych exam to occur within the next 30 days. So then he reset the sentencing for 30 days from now. So now we're going to see if this guy is off his meds and just batshit. It really sounds like he is probably schizophrenic, which is, he hasn't even been tried for the murders in Illinois yet, the 2 murders that he committed. It sounds like he's schizophrenic. And they do not like to take their medication. They will refuse to take their medication. And if someone refuses, you cannot force them. You can't do it. So anyway, so July 10th at 3 p.m. is when this will be revisited. This is the only video that I did that YouTube said, no, you cannot be monetized on the video. Because when I did this, one of the videos that I did on this case, I inserted the actual footage of the shooting. It was 30 seconds to a minute long. It was that quick. When they started running after this guy and he turns around and he starts shooting the dog and shooting, at the people. It was really, really quick, but you know, it's a violent act. You know, you're showing someone shooting someone else or someone shooting a dog. Anyway, so because of that violence, I couldn't get monetized on that video. So I'm not going to insert it here. I can actually link the video up here, and if you want to go see the actual footage of what Allan Brown did that day, you can see it in this video. So that's it for today, guys. Thursday, tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. I will probably bring you a true crime story going into the weekend because Monday's a holiday, Memorial Day, so everybody's going to have sales. So look out for the crafting sales. Yeah, I'm going to head to the craft store because I need more floss. Yes, you can never have enough floss for your cross stitch. All right, guys, have a great have a great day. Don't forget tonight, I'm going to be live at 7:30 with my buddy Mickey Sunshine Creates. We are going to be introducing our diamond painting event. This is the second yearly one that we've done. The Great Escape 2023. And the artist Rose Prophet will be on our show tonight. She's going to reveal the paintings that she designed for this event. And you guys are not going to want to miss it. So I'll see you then. Bye.